Hi Professor, this is my book review for the 5 lenses of diversity. The first lens that this book addresses is the family structure, and it's called Home for a While by Lauren H. Kirstein. And this book is about this little boy right here who is being taken by his foster mom to a home where he begins to experience sudden kind of emotional outbursts. And well, let me show you an example. So you can see he's arriving home and he's already telling himself, "This isn't your home." His thoughts shouted, "Nobody wants you." His feelings rumbled. And she goes on to tell him, "I'm so happy you're here," Maggie said. "Sure." Calvin thumped his backpack onto the floor. He wasn't ready to unpack yet. And she says, "That night, may I hug you goodnight?" "Nah," Calvin replied. "Well then, sweet dreams," Maggie said. And this goes on throughout the whole book, where every day he kind of has this sad disposition and can't believe he's lovable. And you can tell whatever he went through in the past with his former caregivers, that he did experience a lot of trauma. And you can tell because here he says he thought bouncing a basketball would quiet his feelings. Bounce, bounce, bounce. His hands shook as he waited for Maggie's reaction because he accidentally broke a pot. And instead, she just creased her forehead, but she didn't yell. "Want to shoot some hoops outside?" Maggie asked. "Nah," said Calvin, and she waited, breathing in and breathing out. Calvin's breath joined Maggie's. His thoughts quieted as they walked outside. He bounced the ball as high as the sky, his stomach steadied like a spring breeze. And then again that night she asked him, "Can I hug you goodnight?" And he says no. So she makes several attempts to try to hug him and show him that he's huggable. And finally he asks, "Why do you want to hug me?" She says, "I want to hug you because you're quite huggable." "Oh, I am?" "Yes, you are." Why didn't anyone else think that? Maybe they didn't realize you can bounce a ball for an hour. You're like a persistent beaver pounding sticks into his lodge. I am like no one I've ever met. And so you can see that he keeps having these emotional outbursts throughout the time that he's staying there. And she consistently meets him with understanding, calm words that make him feel little by little safe enough to finally another outburst, to finally say, "Maggie, is this my home for a while?" "Yes, Calvin, this is your home for a while." He nodded. "Could you hug me goodnight?" Maggie reached out. "You're like a cuddly bear cub." Calvin melted into her arms. "And you're like a mama bear." "I am like no one I've ever met," which is what she always told him whenever he said "I am," and she would say "like no one I've ever met." And then the end. And so the anti-bias goals that this book has is, number one, demonstrates self-awareness. So he's aware that, I don't like being here and this isn't true. Like, why didn't anyone else love me? He understands that even though he's a little kid, he understands what he's going through. And number two, anti-bias goals expresses comfort and joy with human diversity. Even though she apparently, it's obvious she looks different. She's a different skin tone than he is. He never saw her for anything other than another parent that was trying to take care of him. He didn't judge her for her skin color or anything like that. And then it also addresses anti-bias goal number 4, demonstrates empowerment skills to act with others or alone against prejudice and discriminatory actions. So I think maybe not so much number 4, but he does show that he's feeling empowered, and that finally he's able to go outside and play with her in one of the pages, and he's able to finally give in and let his guard down that he built up because of his trauma, and finally you know, play with her and engage in meaningful interactions with her instead of just saying nah. That's my first book. The second book is Love is Powerful by Heather Dean Brewer. So this Lens of Diversity addresses gender and sexual orientation. And this book is about a little girl who is with her mother, and they are making signs to participate in a protest that she kind of wasn't sure what was about. And this is what her mom tells her. Mary spilled her crayons onto the table. They made a messy rainbow. What are we coloring, Mama? She asked. Mama smiled. A message to the world. And she looks down from her apartment and she sees so many different people of all different types of ethnicities and backgrounds, which is anti-bias goal number 2, expresses comfort and joy with human diversity. And she's wondering, why is everyone down there? And then she climbed into her mama's lap. The crayon smelled sharp and new. Mama used one to write some letters. Even though Mama's words stretched across the poster, they would be too small for the world to read, Mary thought. Mary picked up a crayon as she made her own sign. She imagined her friends in their apartments across the city. Grandma and Grandpa, a plane ride away, and all the people in other countries. And you can see here, there's so many different people in different countries, and they're all protesting for one cause, which is, if you look at the little signs, it's for equality, pro-life, girl power, feminism, LGBTQ representation, things like that. And then Mary wondered, how will the whole world see our message? Mama hugged her close. They'll see, she said, because love is powerful. And even in this imagery, you can see all different kinds of people holding up signs and coming together to fight one cause. And that addresses anti-bias goal number 4. It's demonstrating empowerment and people acting with others against prejudice of some kind. And then towards the end of the book, it shows an even bigger crowd of everyone that's there to protest. And then even signs that say, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. I'm a girl, what's your superpower? Love is love. And at the end, she's finally there with her mom. And she raised her sign for everyone to see, even though she was small and the crowd very big. So big she didn't think anyone would hear. She called out her message. Through the roar, her voice was heard and someone shouted the message back. Mary yelled again and more joined. Again she yelled the message. Love is powerful. Love is powerful. This time when the crowd called back, Mary's message rumbled down the streets and echoed off the buildings. It was loud as breaking waves. Love is powerful. And at the end, it goes on to say about how the author of this book is actually the little girl right here who did make those signs, and they did incorporate the signs in the illustration as well, which I thought was cute. And yeah, so this one is for the gender lens of diversity. And this book addresses the culture, race, and ethnicity lens. And it is called I Am Brown, written by Ashok Banker. And this book is just about this brown little girl who is reflecting herself and being self-aware, like the anti-bias goal number 1, demonstrate self-awareness, confidence, family, positive social identity. And you can see that immediately when you read the first page. I am brown, I am beautiful, I am perfect. And this is her reflection in the water on a rainy day. I am love, I am friendship, I am happiness. You could see her playing with her friends, playing with her dog. I am a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, an athlete, a singer, a president, an actor, an electrician, a prime minister. And it shows all different kinds of representations for different careers for someone like her, someone with her skin color that maybe a little girl could be reading with the same skin color and she can see herself now. Oh, I can be a doctor. I can be a prime minister. I can be this important high-level job, you know? I make art. I design rocket ships. I help people. I pilot ships. I solve crimes. I come from North America, South America, Africa, Oceania, Europe, and Asia. And it has all these different kinds of friends who are looking at the globe. And then, excuse me, sorry. It shows different languages. So this one covers also the language part of the lens of diversity. Chinese, Swahili, Russian, Hindi, Bengali, Telugu, and Portuguese. And she's expressing comfort and joy with humans of different diverse backgrounds, and she cares deeply about these people, which addresses anti-bias number 2. And she goes on to show different characteristics, physical characteristics like hair, mustache, black eyes, green eyes, brown eyes. And different places where they live in, a boat, a house, an apartment, a cottage. It just shows so many different types of diversity. Different types of food from different cultures, tacos, spaghetti, barbecue, vindaloo, samosas, noodles, biryani, different types of food from different cultures. And let me make sure my phone is not dying. Okay. Forgive me, I just didn't want my phone to die during this video. Goes on to show different things. I'm your roommate, I'm your classmate, I'm your partner, I'm your boss, I'm your driver, I'm your teacher. And then this shows different religions. It shows a temple, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, a dara, a shrine, and nowhere. And yes, so this is a great book. I am brown, I'm amazing, I am you. That encourages, kids of color to see themselves in society as important people. And then my third book addresses socioeconomic diversity. And this book is called Two White Rabbits by Dario Buitrago. And this book is about a little girl whose dad is crossing the border illegally to come to a different country in hopes to have a better life. And he's experiencing poverty, and it just shows their travels and her experience of it from her side and her point of view being a little girl. Where's the beginning? When we travel, I count what I see. And it's her and her dad. She sees some chickens, 5 cows, 4 hens, and 1 chucho, as my dad calls them. 1 little boy, bored donkey, and 50 birds in the sky. And this kind of shows the border entrance right here, and then the river, and people crossing it in rafts and taking all their things, and they really only had what they could fit in a backpack. And this is a picture of them crossing, and you can see up here it says border. When we travel, I count the people who live by the train tracks. There are people, says my dad, who live by the tracks. And here it shows all different kinds of ethnicities that are coming from different countries to have a better life and maybe not live in poverty, and just maybe they're escaping something that, a danger from their old home. He even shows them going on the train tracks and hopping on the train. But the little girl, she's not scared because she's with her dad, because she's experienced it from her point of view, and all she's thinking is, well, what can I count? What can I see? And if I get tired, I look up and count the clouds. I learn to count to 100. And then here they are on the train tracks, on the train. And as you see, there's always this fox following them. Or is it a coyote? And is this I'm not sure exactly if it's supposed to be a coyote, because I know they call like the people who help people cross the border, they call them coyotes, which it means coyote. But this doesn't look like a coyote. It's yellow, it's orange, so I'm assuming it's a fox. So she's counting that. She's in the rain. She's in the night. And then even in this one, there's illustrations showing that, oh, but we do stop, because the people who are taking us don't always take us where we are going. And it shows police officers, border patrol, you know, picking up the people who are not supposed to be on the plane. I mean, on the train. Where are we going? I ask sometimes, but no one answers. And you can tell her dad was happy that he had escaped the border patrol. Finally, they're in a town, and she meets a boy there, and I believe this is the lady who they came to meet, so that she can help them. She's waiting, just spending time with him, you know. Oh, and then they're playing, and it's so funny. You can see like they're making their own train, because that's exactly where she came from. And so you can tell this little boy had also came to the country where he's at, thanks to hopping on a train. And then the dad is here with a crate full of apples. And then the boy gives her 2 white rabbits. The truck that is going to take us arrives. The boy and his mother look at us the way people we meet on the road look at us. Goodbye, says the boy. His grandmother too, and they give me the box. And you can see here, now she has the bunnies, and the dad is counting his money, looking kind of worried about whether or not he's going to be able to make it. And she says, sometimes when I'm not sleeping, I count the stars. There are 1,000 like people. And I count the moon. It is alone. Sometimes I see soldiers, but I don't count them anymore. There are about 100. We are back on the road, and I have 2 white rabbits. And this shows the wall. And so I thought this book was really cool, because I had never read one like this when I was little. And it really gives parents an opportunity to explain what is going on in a way that kids can understand. And maybe it can make them recognize unfairness and understand things like that, you know? And my last book is actually on my laptop. I was not able to get a physical version of my book because my library did not have any books about any kids with disabilities, which I thought was a little weird. That it was strange that I had to order a book from another library just to get a hold of one. So what I chose is one that was online that someone reviewed, because I was going to order one on Audible, and for some reason my Amazon account was not working. And this one is called I See Things Differently. And let me pull it up for you. It might be a little complicated. I'm sorry. So this one's called I See Things Differently, a first look at autism. And this is by Pat Thomas. And this book is about a little boy who has experiences at school that a lot of the friends that he has don't relate to. For example, he goes on to say that he experiences loud noise and he has trouble with that, and that when he behaves in what people portray to be as bad, it's not because he's bad, it's just because he's different. And so that's why I picked this one for the diverse ability lens of diversity, because he demonstrates awareness that he's different and that he understands he's not like the stereotypical kid. And it's really cool. Do you know what it feels like to be worried or nervous or scared or to feel different from other people? We all feel these things sometimes, but people who have autism feel things a lot. You may have never seen them behaving in ways that seem strange to you and wonder, you may have seen them behaving in ways that seem strange to you and wonder why they do these things. For example, there's this picture of a girl organizing her pencils one by one, which that boy's kind of looking like, why is she doing that? But even if you ask them, they might not be able to explain. In fact, some people with autism don't speak at all. Autism is something you are born with. It's not something that you can catch from others. When people have autism, it affects the way their brain works, making them behave or react differently from others. Nobody knows exactly what causes it, and figuring that out isn't easy because the way our brain works is very complicated. And it shows him with a little girl or a little boy feeling sad and upset and someone trying to help. And here it shows a different diverse amount of people: a kid with red hair, a brown boy with black hair, a white girl with brown hair, and a white girl with blonde hair, which also adheres to anti-bias goal number, where is it? 2. Comfort and joy with human diversity. Our brains help us make sense of the world. They help us learn from the things we do and see. They help us understand that if someone is smiling, that means they're happy. Or that a green pencil works just as well as a red one. Or if you put peanut butter on first and then jam, it tastes the same as if you put jam on first. What about you? Do you know someone who has autism? I also like how the book asks questions that the parents can then ask their kids, and then it can spark like a different conversation. But for people with autism, their brain works differently from other people's. They may look the same as everyone else on the outside, but inside they can feel like everyone around them is speaking a different language or from a different planet. And it shows, how she's feeling bad, or that she has some type of dispositions obviously different from them. They're happy playing with the car, and even though she may look normal, she doesn't feel that way on the inside. People with autism may find big crowds or loud noises very frightening, and hear all the kids playing and singing, and he's just like, I'm having a hard time with that experience. They may repeat the same words over and over again, or move their bodies in ways that look strange to you. And here he is on his tippy toes, kind of flapping his hands, which I already know from learning about autism that it's like a tendency, like a little tick they have. When you talk to them, they may not look at you, and you may wonder if they are hearing what you say. Even small changes can be very upsetting to them. That's why they may always want to sit in the same chair or read the same book or use the same cup. These habits help people with autism feel. These habits help people with autism feel safer and more able to deal with all the things they are feeling. And so I like that they are mentioning things that will help them. That way, maybe if a child encounters something like that, he could understand, he feels better. And I did read a book like that. I do remember that kid feeling better when he always sat in the same chair. It might be something they see in their real life. Most of us are pretty good at finding ways to ignore things that we don't want to see or hear or do. But for people with autism, it can be harder to ignore these things. All the sights and sounds and smells around them come rushing into their brains like a giant wave. When that happens, this may feel lots of confusing feelings at once. They may feel lots of confusing feelings at once. And then towards the end of the book, it just says, being with more than one person at a time may be upsetting, and it can be hard for them to make friends. But we all need friends to love and support us. So if you know someone with autism, try to be a good friend. Be kind and patient, and don't expect him or her to grow out of it. That won't happen. He or she will always see the world differently from others. But with love and support from everyone around them, people with autism can learn to feel a little happier and a little safer each day. And that is my last book. And those were all the books I chose for my lenses of diversity. I really do like the last one because I've never read a book growing up about someone with autism. But I think maybe had I read something like that, it would have helped me understand one of my aunts that was that she had autism, and I never understood why she acted the way she acted. I remember I used to be scared of her because I was little. I'd be like, oh my god, why is she yelling? But I never knew anything. I never was exposed to it, and so I think that book is really cool. Anyways, that is the end of my book review. Thank you very much.